Hey guys, welcome back, it's Ripe again. In today's video, a homeowner association Karen was dissatisfied with my son's chalk drawings on the sidewalk. She claims he is defacing public property and ends up using a pressure washer to get rid of him. This lady refuses to stop and is totally out of control, and I honestly don't know what to do. Let's dive right into the story. The title story goes like this. My story starts in an otherwise quiet HOA-controlled neighborhood in the lovely country that is South Africa. I moved here to work for a telecoms company where I met my beautiful wife, and after a very blissful decade, we are now joined by our young son, who continues to be not only the light of our lives, but also the centerpiece of the issue we soon faced. Although it was not his fault, he ended up drawing a lot of unwanted attention from our new neighbor. This was a neighbor we had previously had very little contact with, aside from the mandated good morning or hello in passing. I knew already that they didn't have children of their own, but I did not realize yet to the extent at which she also seemed to dislike children, or at least my son specifically. We hoped that any troublesome neighbors could just be ignored, but it turned out this was something that was too awful to let her get away with. It was a bright summer afternoon. I was flipping burgers on the barbecue while my wife was entertaining guests in the front yard where we had put some money into constructing a small social area. We did it because we like to have friends over, we were both quite sociable people, and the weather practically demanded it were adored. My son was doodling something on the sidewalk with chalk he got from a recent birthday. We let him play by himself when we were busy, but we still watched him closely. The neighborhood may appear idyllic, but the evening news always made us cautious and wary. A car pulls into the adjacent driveway as Helena, our neighbor, stepped out. She was a bit of an oddball, total recluse, and the type of middle-aged lady that sat happily at home with her wine and cats. She always wore a sour face, never sure if she had just been facing a stressful day or was just a grumpy person in general. We kept our distance and tried to avoid anything that could lead to a confrontation. On this occasion, we waved at her as she made her way towards the front door and invited her over. Although she merely gave us a dismissive glance before turning her attention over to our son briefly, before shutting the door behind her. 40 minutes later, I am washing dishes, watching my son still working hard on his masterpiece through the front-facing window. Helena then proceeded to burst outside with as much force as an action movie. Stomping up to the sidewalk and began yelling at the small child she loomed over. My son immediately dropped his chalk at the commotion and cowered beneath her. As I reached the front door, she had already departed and sent him flying towards me, crying his eyes out. After comforting him and sending him to the safety of his room, I marched next door to confront the neighbor who was fearfully apprehensive to open the door to me. But when she did finally open the door, we had a heated discussion as I tried to find out what the hell happened. When she realized I was steadily more confused and angry, she began to bite back, standing her ground unapologetically about the situation. To remove her doubts and ease her concerns, I used my hosepipe to wash the sidewalk, showing her that the chalk graffiti was not permanent. She did seem somewhat relieved by it, but even then showed no hint of remorse or compromise as we parted ways. My son refused to play outside for 2 weeks following that, and only after much coddling and reassurance did he even pick up his chalk again. The next time he did find the courage to be a kid again, I was weeding in the yard while my wife was out seeing friends. The neighbor came outside briefly, but disappeared soon after she noticed my glare. I took a break to kick back on a lawn chair, but I must have dozed off because the next thing I knew, I was shocked awake by the sudden sound of running water. I jumped up from the chair and spotted the neighbor jet washing the sidewalk, as well as my son, who was being blasted nonchalantly like he was caught in a tsunami. I yelled as I approached, and she looked startled by my aggression as she stopped the pressure washer, explaining that she was only cleaning it away like I had shown her before. Somehow, whether accidental or not, she had failed to notice the young child still on that sidewalk at the time. And once more, without remorse or apology, she said it was my son's fault for being in the way, or mine that I was sleeping instead of watching him. After a long and heated discussion on responsibility and negligence, I took my son inside, with both parties failing to meet a compromise or armistice in what felt like a massive escalation in our feud. I explained the situation to my wife later that evening and she was ready to kick her door down. Not that I could blame her, yet I managed to talk her down. The next morning my son was crying constantly, concerned and confused. We had a look and discovered a series of large and discolored bruises. We took him over to see the doctor immediately and sat there all morning. With no other explanation, we knew the neighbor had to be dealt with. My own deeply troubled and paranoid mind wondered what this said about us as parents. Are we really gonna face a call from Child Protective Services soon? Would they take away our son because of this? At that point we had finally reached our boiling point and no longer were we willing to put up with this kind of crap. With the results of my son's medical test coming back, according to our legal attorney, we had sufficient proof of harm and enough charges to file a lawsuit against them, so the following week we set our plans in motion. The HOA were given the chance to meet with us before the trial began, but they arrogantly declined, giving us even more desire to see them burn without mercy. Knowing that without public support we would be destroyed by their team of professional high-flying monkeys, we took our story to social media and watched in wonder as it became viral overnight, with offers to crowdfund our legal fees among other things. We walked into that trial proud and confident, and though on some days it did look like our outcome would be bleak, in the end we got the results we so desperately needed. The HOA were forced to pay a reduced sum of $10,000 in damages to us in mock apology, and although we did not manage to bring all of the board members to justice, their president, the main offender, was fired from their position and sentenced to 2 years in jail for their part. The new president is very lovely and we have had absolutely no issues with them or their HOAs since. And by the way, Ripe Stars, this story was sent to me via email by a viewer, and since it was not specifically mentioned in the story, I had to ask whether the son of OP was actually injured by the pressure washer or not. And unfortunately, yes, that was absolutely the case. You should not mess around with these pressure washers, especially when children are around. OP's son apparently had quite a serious injury. OP even showed me a picture of the injury for proof, however, I would rather not show that on YouTube due to the fear of getting demonetized. Either way, the next one is titled Absolutely Insane Truck Lady. The state I live in has crazy entitled people pretty much everywhere. So this crap does not even surprise me at all, since I've seen it enough times in my life to become indifferent to it. However, it's amusing to talk about it, so I will tell it here. Though the first part is not so amusing, in 2020 I lost my home in a wildfire and was only left with whatever I could pack up in a Ford Focus during the evacuation. I was renting a basement apartment in a country house and most of my stuff went up in flames. I realized that my car may get good gas mileage, but it's not gonna hold a lot of stuff. Or tow anything. My landlord evacuated his family in a big GMC truck with a 5th-wheel trailer. He had everything he needed, from emergency food storage to backup vehicles. His wife drove another truck out fully loaded with a trailer full of their stuff. They had everything they needed to survive and more. That made me realize that I needed to be better prepared. I had to couch surf for a while and I could never stay in one place for too long because I was a guest and not a tenant. So I ended up living out of a tent in a field with several other people who had also lost their homes to the fire. It was like a tent village set up by a local charity. The shelters were beyond full. And it is a warm climate, so tents were the next best way to go considering the situation at the time. I managed to get a used but decent sized tent and basically furnished it like a tiny apartment with a cot, small table and even some chairs. I even housed a poker night in it a few times. Though I tried to make sure that I didn't leave anything worth stealing in it when I went to work, I was still going to work almost every day and even volunteering for extra shifts. I was saving money since I was not paying rent living the tent life, and I made up my mind to keep saving to one day buy a truck of my own. Because if this situation with the wildfires or some other disaster ever happened again, I need to be better prepared. Move on to just a few months ago. I put down over a year's worth of savings to buy a used Chevy Silverado 1500 with a canopy already on it. It's got a few dents and a big diagonal scratch across the hood. And the paint is a bit weather worn, but so what? It had a good bit less than 100,000 miles on it and a list of recent repairs that included a new radiator. I had spent a year living as cheaply as possible to save as much as possible. I wanted a truck and a camp trailer in case the fires ever come back. Some people have tried to call me a hoarder for picking up stuff off the side of the road and using it, but I don't keep all that stuff at my apartment. In fact, I keep almost minimal furniture. Some remark that my apartment looks like it was just moved into, as I still keep some of my stuff packed in boxes. I want to be able to pack and leave fast if I have to, especially since the world only seems to be getting worse right now. I bought the truck, an ironically silver Silverado. I bought it off a man who looked to be in his 50s that said he has had a bad back and cannot use it anymore. And by the way, Ripe Stars, what I'm kind of curious of, why can't you use a Silverado anymore if you have a bad back? Aren't these trucks meant to be comfortable? If you know what OP is talking about, let me know in the comments. Anyway, he gave me a steal of a deal when I came to get it by dropping the price by $1,000 because he felt I was clearly in love with it, and I am. I am very happy with the truck. She drives like a dream. A big, heavy dream, but still a dream, and she was clearly underdriven by the previous owner, as it is still not at 100,000 miles. I still kept my old Ford Focus though, that way my fuel costs won't skyrocket. Now let's go to what happened a few weeks after I bought the truck. I was out in the same general area I bought the truck in to look at a used camp trailer that I was possibly interested in buying, but it ended up being in such a bad shape that I turned it down because it was beyond my skills to repair. Before leaving the town, I stopped to eat at a local diner. Great burgers, by the way, and as I was leaving after having dinner, I noticed a woman who looked to be somewhere in her 40s looking over my truck. I'm not gonna use the term Karen to describe this person because I know two women named Karen and they are both fantastic people, so no Karen here. But she did sort of have that look that people associate with the stereotype. I asked that lady what she was doing poking around my truck and she gave me a side glare while demanding to know where I got it. I said I just bought it a few weeks prior. She rushed up to me and said I did not buy it, I stole it. I told her no, I purchased it from a title owner, so that makes it mine. The lady then rifled through her purse to pull out a smartphone and scroll through it, and then she showed a photo of a truck in it. I looked at the truck in the picture and I will be a monkey's uncle. It was the same truck. The license plate and scratch on the hood were clearly visible. And there was also a man in the photo, the same guy who sold me the truck. When I acknowledged this, the crazy lady started yelling, see, and then demanded I return it to her. She held her hand out for the keys and kept saying to give it back. I told her I bought the Silverado fair and square off the guy in the photo. And that it is my truck now. But she did not let up. She went and sat on my bumper and called the police. She was heavily exaggerating while talking to the operator. Or dispatcher or whatever they call the person on the line when you call 911. I'm not sure. She refused to get off my truck, so I decided to just wait it out for police to show up. When police got there, I stayed completely calm, but the crazy lady went off and started working up tears and saying that her truck went missing some time ago and she finally found it. Then she demanded they arrest me for Grand Theft Auto and get her truck back. I just calmly unlocked the doors, got my insurance card, registration and license to hand to one of the officers. I told them to just check my documents and they would see that I'm the legal owner. But the crazy lady did not stop. She tried to run to the door of the truck I had opened, but I relocked it before I shut it. And she tried to repeatedly pull on the handle while telling the police to just arrest me already. One of the officers calmed the lady down while the other ran my information. He came back after a few minutes and said everything checks out. The crazy lady looked, a British word I like to use that I think can best describe the moment. Gobsmacked. She said that it cannot be and demanded the police check again. Then pulled out her phone to show more pictures of the truck. I pointed out that the man in one of the photos was the man who sold the truck to me. And honestly, I got no idea what relation the crazy lady is to him, but he is the only person I bought the truck from. The police then asked her who it was and she said it was her soon-to-be ex-husband. They were going through a divorce. I pointed out when I bought the truck her husband's name was the only one on the title. The crazy lady yelled at me that he had originally bought it for her. And it was missing one day after she came home. All I could do was shrug and say I did not know that. However, her husband was the legal owner before me and I bought the truck from him. The police told her that I was correct and it's legally my truck now. The lady went from crazy to just very sad as she cried that it was her truck and he sold it without her permission. Honestly, I did feel sorry for the woman and said to the police that they may want to do a wellness check on her or something. They said I was free to go and they would handle the situation from there. When I was getting ready to leave, the crazy lady yelled that she was gonna follow me and find out where I live. However, the 2 officers did not let her do so. I left the parking lot and hightailed it on the highway out of there. I later contacted the guy who sold me the truck and he admitted that the crazy lady is his soon-to-be ex-wife. She cheated on him for the 2nd time and it was the final nail in the coffin for their marriage. The truck was always in his name only and that woman had signed a prenup when they married, so the divorce was not going in her favor. It has been months now and that lady has not found me again, so I'm probably in the clear as long as I avoid the area I bought the truck in. Though for all I know, she is not living there anymore since her husband divorced her. Edit, many have pointed out the need for new plates and paint. And well, I've started putting money off to the side for that. Considering the heat, I may just paint the truck white as that color is better under the sun and I like it. I have already ordered a home dent puller kit to try and undo some of the dents on the body myself. I'm not sure if I'm gonna pay to have the truck painted or try to paint it myself. Doing it DIY style sounds interesting, and I hear there is kits for buying everything you need to paint a vehicle for a little over $100 online. Either way, I should have the truck repainted with new plates eventually. And hopefully, if I ever run into the crazy lady again, she won't recognize me. Update, not sure who will see this. I don't think I can really make a separate post about it since it's not long and doesn't involve anyone entitled. But anyway, I discussed with a friend about the crazy lady and my truck and he suggested a home paint job using spray cans. At first, I thought it was weird, but then he showed me videos of people painting cars and trucks with these big spray cans that have high pressure and a white spray. So we went out and I bought a bunch of those tall cans of primer, gray and gloss white. We took the time to PDR remove as many dents as we could using hot glue and a slide hammer I ordered and recently got in the mail. We then sanded the truck with a rotary sander before painting it and I have to say, the results are pretty good. I spent about $100 in paint, 5 cans of primer and 5 cans of white paint. You cannot even tell it's the same truck anymore and the white color should help with the heat where I live too. In time, I will get new plates for the truck and then hopefully the crazy lady will never notice me again. The funny thing is that after my parents saw the truck in its new paint, I got a request to paint my dad's old car as well. He banged it up a fair bit over the last 20 years and thought maybe a new paint job would be nice. The car was already white, so why not? He paid for the paint and my friend and I did some more PDR, sanded the car and gave it a fresh coat. The front seats were also pretty torn up, so my dad bought seat covers that I put on after sewing shut a few tears. My dad couldn't be happier with the end result, so I guess everything has kind of worked out for the moment. And yeah, Ripe Stars, I am happy that the story ended the way it did for OP. To me at least, one of the most scary things in life would be having these crazy stalkers like Karen. Or I mean, I guess there was the possibility that Karen would become a stalker because she is not happy with OP owning supposedly her car. I think at some point in the future I might share a real-life story of a stalker that not I have dealt with but a neighbor of ours, and this stalker is actually the ex-girlfriend of this guy. She essentially threatened to kill his unborn child because he refused to give her his house. I know it sounds like an entitled people story from Reddit, but it's actually happened right here. Let me know in the comments if you want to hear this story. And with this, we have reached the end of the video. However, I want to ask you for a favor. If you have watched until here, please check out my new channel called The Readers, where I and other voice actors post daily stories that you will very much enjoy. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you again tomorrow.